All right, so we're here live, and I'm Joe, one of the co-founders of Cycle CPA, along with Carla Policastro as well. And today we have a very special guest, Frank Bourque. So he's a um, landscape and hardscape consultant. We had first met you, Frank, at the Synced Up event, and we were blown away by some of the items you covered, and looking forward to I guess diving deep into some of the items about running a landscape company. But thank you, Frank, for joining us.
Oh, well, so happy to be here with you guys. And it was great to connect at that event. I guess I'm surprised we didn't meet before then, but I had heard of Cycle CPA. So for me, it was like uh, a great moment to be able to connect with you guys, because a lot of what I've talked about at that event and in what I do is so directly related to what you guys do. And I think it's so important to have people who specialize like you do in a specific field, because as contractors, there's so many things we have to try to be good at, but accounting is usually not one of those things that we want to put energy on. But so anyways, it was great to connect with you guys, and I'm so happy you guys are doing this for the industry, and thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Absolutely, Frank. And so I know that you're very involved within the industry and consulting, but can you kind of give us a background of how you got started in the industry and kind of worked your way into consulting as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out 25 years ago as a student. I just wanted a summer job and I loved the outdoors. So I started to work in the landscape field, doing that in the summers, and also studying in university. At the time, it was a totally different topic, psychology, and I actually got a job working as a group therapist with inmates. But then after my first year, I realized, I really preferred just doing my own thing, being outside. And I tried to see, how can I make this happen? So I had this big dream of having my own company. And I started, a little bit at a time. And within 6-7 years, we had built a company. I still had my full-time job, but we had built a company with over 100 employees. And we were in 2 different cities, and we had partners in the business as well. And, everything was great until it wasn't. The economy kind of took a shift in 2008, 2009, and we had to restructure the business, really look at what we were doing, and we realized that we had built a business without a solid foundation. What I mean by that is we kind of skipped a few steps to kind of grow that big dream. And I think my whole presentation today is around that is we all have a dream to build the ideal business. And I think there's a way to do it that's much simpler than most of us have done it in the past or are doing it. And to be able to get that information and implement certain things and close the gaps between different stages of business helps us do that. So for me, my business, we were able to restructure the business when the economy took a shift, and kind of rebuilt it in a way that we really loved, that made us love the business even more. And we were probably running double the efficiency than we were previously, because it was do or die. We had to have better systems, work with better people, and just better equipment. And that allowed us to be a way more efficient, profitable company at the end. And so having done that, I sold that company. I also built another pool installation company and sold that as well in 2017. And I have just been doing consulting since then. So 5 years full time, and before that, another 5 years part time. So now I'm dedicated to helping contractors in the industry to run a profitable business, and that makes them feel also free. So they don't have to. It's not an owner's dependent business. It's more of a business that can support them, their employees, and that can be profitable. So.
Wow,
Awesome.
that's
Thank
quite
you.
a story there. And that's great. And I think one thing that you mentioned that I feel that some members in our group are in is like having that full-time job and starting your own business. Before we go into the stages of business, what kind of tips and tricks would you recommend to somebody at that stage?
Yeah, for me, it was because at the time I was passionate about learning about business, but I did not know exactly where to start first. It's like you know how to do the work, so you do the work, but then you realize you should know more about finances, so then you try to learn a bit more. But your accountant, well, mine anyways, did not want to take his time and teach me. But you guys are taking some of your time, like today, to bring topics that we can all learn from. I think all this education wasn't there as much back then. So have I started educating myself a little bit more about how to have something that's more predictable, like a budget would have helped me so much. Honestly, we were running a 7 point, almost an $8 million company. And I can't tell you that we were really running it with a budget. And that was the biggest failure, I think, out of everything we were doing. We should have really done that to be able to run accurate estimating. And then from there, to be able to know exactly how much we charge. But, like other companies, we managed to survive, but we could have had it so much easier having known our numbers. I think that at the beginning would have been much simpler to do. So I had the motivation, but, looking back, I would definitely want to know a little bit more about the numbers. So this is the perfect place to learn about numbers, learn about budgeting, looking to know what to track and what to really, and we're going to talk about that a little bit today. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, Frank. And I know you have mentioned in the first company that you ran, and you kind of got to a point where you had to rebuild it. And I'm curious, based on the companies that you work with, how often do you see companies grow, and then reach that point where they're almost forced to then relook at systems or relook at the financials and stuff like that?
Such a good question. I think I would almost estimate that over 95% of people who call me, they call me because they reach a point and they're like, man, I am capped as much as I can, in terms of business and my capacity. I've reached my capacity. And Frank, I need help to be able to go to the next step because I don't know how to go beyond this point. And for some people, it's not really a high revenue. They only have 1 or 2 employees, but for some people, it's over 50, over 100 employees. And they just reach this point where they're like, I don't know, it seemed to run so much smoother before. What am I not doing? So what we do is we really identify the gaps. Like, hey, which step did we skip? Or which step are you not putting in? I often say in my presentations that most entrepreneurs do all the right things, but some do not do it in the right order, right? So they have the willingness to hire people, they have the willingness to invest in equipment, all these things. But if you do one step before the other, it could be a mistake. It could be something that comes back to kind of bite you later on. So coming back to your question, I think it's a matter of doing things in an order that is predictable and it's sustainable. Ultimately, that's what we want to run a healthy business. So from everyone, I think it's just sometimes we miss a step or we skip a step because we want to be further than we really are. But then you feel the strain, you feel the tension because it grows. It's something that's not implemented. It needs to be there. So.
Oh, great. And I know that, I guess when it comes to kind of handling things in the right order, how many kind of stages do you kind of separate it into?
Yeah, well, I really see things as there's 5 major stages of business. And even before tackling the business, I like to ask the questions to everyone, how do you identify yourself? Because you have to identify yourself at which type of entrepreneur are you? Because you're going to grow your business differently based on the type of entrepreneur. So before even going in the stages of business, I would like to ask this question for anyone listening to this is, oftentimes we can be like, I can see myself looking back 20 years ago, I was I have 3 different types of entrepreneurs. The mountain climber who wants growth and to grow something big, right? So that's exactly what I wanted to build, a big business and lots of revenue and lots of employees. And then, as time went by and I did not have time or enough systems, I really got fed up of the mountain climber personality, if I can use that term. So I became more of a freedom fighter. I just wanted my time back, right? I just wanted my freedom. I don't want to travel. I had young kids, a young family. Like I want to feel free. So I want to build a business that's going to give me that freedom to choose, and to be able to do that. So it's more about independence at this stage. And then, but you also have the craftspeople, and we have a lot in this industry. And so for those people, what's important is they want to create art, or they want to create something with their hands that's they can show the world. And that's where they value what they do, is in the craftsmanship. So we all have our reasons for doing what we do. But once you know the reason why you're doing it, if you're focused on growth or freedom or the craft itself, you still need the same systems. You're going to go through the same stages of business. So it's going to be a little bit different for each, but it's going to be very similar in the sense that, there's 5 stages of business, and if I can go through the stages of business, then we can talk about what people should be looking at and maybe doing in each stage of business. Is that good with you?
Absolutely. Please.
Good. So the first stage is really the person on the field, right? We all start at this stage where, all right, we put things in order. We're often 1 or 2 people in the field. We start our business, but some people actually, that's the only stage they're in for the most part of their career. They try to step out, but when they step out, things don't fall into place. Mistakes happen. With the lack of experience or skill, employees may not do the work exactly how it's supposed to be done. Then there's callbacks, there's failures. So it can be a stage difficult in the sense that you're wearing many hats, right? You're going to be the marketer for your company. You're going to be the manager. You're going to be the foreman, the complaints department. You're going to deal with clients. You're going to be sales. You're going to do some admin work. Really at this stage, and we'll talk about later on, it's you're wearing many hats, so it's important to do specific things. You're going to be focused on the technical competency. So you got to learn how to do it well, and then you got to teach people to do it well to be able to step out of that stage. When you're able to start stepping out of that stage, you don't usually do it just one day you decide to step out. Although I can see myself, I've tried that several times where it didn't really work. It's because I was missing a few steps. But stage 2 is that you could be half on the field and half in the office, or you're in the transition phase of being more in the office to work on office systems. And so in this stage, you're really focused on looking at the office competency. So this is where you're going to implement maybe more software to be tracking a little bit more what's going on into your business. You're going to be maybe doing a little bit more of marketing. You're more focused on sales, maybe design, or coordinating some of these things. So in stage 2, you're trying to automate a lot of the paperwork that goes into running a business and putting that into place. Now in stage 3, you're completely out of the field, and now you have a team of trusted employees that are working for you. You're able to organize all the office side so that the office can communicate with the field. You get the information that you need. So you're really at the stage where you're going to be implementing the most important systems in terms of for scaling. So if you want to scale, you can't go from like stage 1 to stage 4 where you have a whole leadership team and everything runs on its own. It's really important to focus on stage 3 of empowering your team and hiring the right people. This is where it's hard for some people because they have a hard time letting go of what worked as a stage 1 and stage 2. So some of the things that has worked, as in sometimes you're micromanaging because you're the only one on this field, right? You're making sure it's perfect. But if you do that in stage 3 with your team, it's going to be very frustrating for your team. So if there's business owners out there who's listening and you're in stage 3, let's say you're not working in the field, but you're always showing up on the field and you feel some frustration from your staff, it's because you're a stage 3 business operating like a stage 2 or stage 1, right? So there has to be that trust that's passed on now to your leaders, and the knowledge that you have on the skill level and on the admin level, you're starting to pass that on. You're starting to not wear all the hats. Probably at this stage 3, you're still very highly involved in sales, probably still highly involved in marketing, but you have a budget now for more marketing or for being able to scale. And so in this stage, it starts getting very interesting. You're able to have more to support on the back end. In stage 4, you're operating like you're the general manager, you have your whole team. And so most of your efforts is going to be on training your team to be better leaders. I don't like the word managers because managers manage, right? But leaders inspire people to want to do better and to want to do the same for their teams. So I really see stage 4 as the true leadership stage where growth and development of sales teams and leadership teams is really the goal. Most of your effort as a business owner in this stage is going to be to be a good leader yourself, but to train other people as leaders. And then in stage 5, well, you're the business owner, you're the leader, but you can really decide if you fully systemized your business through stage 1 through 4. Technically, you can decide, do I want to step back and let my team take over? Do I want to hire a CEO to take care of my business? At this point, it could just be passive income for you as an owner and just really step back as much as you want. And some people want that. The more freedom they want, well, they have the choice to decide. And, I've seen that with some of the companies I've worked with where, they had different goals. And once they've reached stage 4 and stage 5, it's interesting because I just had a call a couple of weeks ago, someone who was at an event and said, Frank, I didn't realize why I was depressed. I run a stage 5 business. My wife tells me all the time that I should be very happy of the results I receive, but I don't know why I'm not happy. I've always wished for this, but now I have it. It's because he wasn't ready to step out of his business. So just like an employee cannot be ready to step into a new role, his new role was totally different from what he knew. He was used to being involved and busy and feeling like he had a purpose in his business. But then when he did such a great job of inspiring his leaders to take decisions and to take the roles, then he didn't know his position. So stage 5 is about having systems in place for risk management, but for also for transitioning your role as the owner in different ways. Sometimes you want to stay involved, sometimes you don't want to. And how can you monitor the business from afar? Well, that's done with KPIs, key performance indicators, so numbers, something that you can measure, but you do that through all the stages. You need numbers through all the stages to tell you what's going right and not so right in your business. But at this point, it's more for risk management and teaching your leadership team to really track the right things and make important decisions. So in a nutshell, those are the 5 stages of the business. Now, we can break them down even more into what kind of important things you should be tracking in each stage of business and what you need to do. So if it's something you guys like to do, I'm more than happy to share more information about that.
Yeah, and Frank, thanks for sharing that. And one of the things that kind of stuck out to me, I think it was in stage 4 when you had mentioned, not only managing, right, but being a leader,
Yeah.
And inspiring people, inspiring your team. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on this as well. But I think that could be a big part of how companies are able to scale. Getting people to buy in and them feeling like they're inspired. But how do you actually do that as the owner or as the leader in the company?
Yeah. So one important thing to remember, and I remember getting this question and I get this so often, so I got this question, and they wouldn't mind me naming their company because they're very successful now. But at the time, it wasn't so funny for them. But they asked me the question, like, Frank, you're telling us to hire people, but where do you find those people, right? And so, and my answer to that is, if you want to find people that stay, or if you have a problem with keeping employees, it just means you're going to have to do something different than you weren't doing before. So what we've realized in this industry is, first and foremost, sometimes we keep employees too long that are not good for a company. And so everyone good that comes after quits because of these employees that are like a cancer for a company. So first, it's looking at what's not working for your company. And sometimes you have to make hard decisions and getting rid of the people that are not in line with your values and with how you want to run your business. So I would say getting rid of the waste in your business. And sometimes waste is employees. It's not just like wasting money or wasting time. It's waste of where you spend your energy with people, because they do more damage. So one of the things is looking what's happening right now, who's in your business, on your team, and just really focusing on the ones who bring value and good attitude, because really that's the only thing that's, if people are not teachable, they're not going to want to learn. They're not going to want to teach it to other people and bring them along. So for me, it's, you need a good team to attract other good team members. So you need to get rid of the bad apples. And I know it's hard, because if you get rid of a bad apple, you can't find another apple. But trust me, you will find another apple, but you have to get rid of the bad apple first. And it might mean that you have to work harder for a short period of time. So they did that. They had to get rid of someone, coming back to Local Roots example. There were 12 employees. There was one bad apple. They said, oh my, what's going to happen to our business if we get rid of that person? They got rid of this person, and something amazing happened. All the other employees said, wow, that was about time that happened. And then all of a sudden people started recommending other people to work there. They found a couple people. Then they start posting ads. The whole attitude and culture changed from that point on. They started having business meetings with the leaders. Even if it's a small leadership team, you could be 2 or 3. You start having meetings on specific topics to review what's working and not working. Great things start to happen. And you need those wins to motivate your team, and they need feedback. So if you're able to start tracking certain things that are working and changing the stuff that's not working fast enough so people don't get as frustrated as they would if you just don't look at it, people start being more interested in your business. And as you go on now, funny thing, Local Roots hired over 40 some employees since then. Wow. And they have over 50 employees, but they were 12 and they were saying you can't find anyone. And now they have a wait list. At that time, sometimes they have a wait list of people waiting to go work there. And it's an awesome culture. But it all starts at who's on your team right now. Sometimes we want to attract the best person in the world, but we wouldn't even go work for our own company. I remember a time where I wouldn't have wanted to work for my own company just because I did not have the right things in place. So it's important to look at your business and say, hey, would you want to work for yourself? And if the answer is no, you probably have to do a few things before attracting the best of the best. And if you don't, well, it's going to be hard to attract anyone at all. That would be the simple but difficult answer. It doesn't give you the special magic recipe, but it's definitely where you have to start. So, when talking about employees, it's one thing, it's a complex thing, but in the few minutes that we have, that would be my best tip, is look at what you have right now, get rid of the negative, or try to influence it to be more positive, and ask yourself the question, would you work for yourself? And if not, what would you change? Right.
Yeah, no, that's all awesome stuff. And it's kind of, making that hard decision or that difficult conversation, and good things will follow from there. And I just want to remind people that are listening to definitely drop some questions in the chat, because we got an industry leading consultant here. So definitely ask some questions here. And Frank, kind of going back to the stages, if you can please, I guess starting in stage 1, and some of the key things to kind of look at and track.
Yeah. So if you look at stage 1, I'll break it down in like sales, then your production, your admin, and marketing, what you should be working on, right? So in the sales department, I would say you don't want to sell jobs that are not going to make you money. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle for years and years and years is they don't have a budget. So they don't know, if you don't have a budget, it's going to be hard to know how much you need to, or how you're going to be estimating, because if you don't have a budget, you probably don't know your overhead. If you don't have your percentage of overhead, you're probably not putting enough into your bids. And some people get confused because they say, hey, I have all this money, I'm 40%, profitable. But then they forget that they're 30% or maybe sometimes 35% or more that's actually overhead, fixed costs that you have to pay every month or every year that's related to not even the stuff that you're going to be doing on site, like the marketing cost, the big truck that you use to go do your estimates as a business
Accounting.
right? The office that you rent or the big garage that you want. So you have to really build that budget, and this is where I think everyone should start. Then a strategic plan. So the strategic plan is there to guide you along the next steps. This can be done with mentors, coaches, consultants. It's there to guide you. You have to build a business based on your values, where you want to go with your business. You have to plan in advance every year based on what you can do with your budget. Every piece of equipment that you want to buy should be run through that plan, but also through that budget to see how is it going to affect your finances, how much revenue you're going to have to make to break even or to be profitable at that point with that new equipment. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see at this stage. People buy too much equipment or too fast or at the wrong time just because they have one job they could use it on. They make the move too quick sometimes. So having clear contracts also with clients to protecting yourself. I learned the hard way where one client didn't want to pay me and I saw that I just needed a better contract. So working on that for sales, setting expectations and conditions with clients. For drawings, a lot of people in stage one, they spend too much time on design. You can hire online now with places like Fiverr and Upwork, sites online that you can hire designers. So you can give them all the information, they'll design for you. You save lots of time and you can get some designs from anywhere from $25 to $150 that are very high quality 2D, 3D. So that's going to save you, anywhere from 10 to 20 hours a week for some people. You have to manage your time differently. That's where people get stuck in stage one is they get distracted by shiny objects. They spend too much and then it forces them to work even more on the field. In production, I would say you have to train your employees. If you don't take the time to train them, they won't be able to do the work with you, for you. And so you have to take the time to train. You have to take the time also to hire and to find people that are in line with what you want to do. Teach them well enough that you can either build someone who can be like your right-hand person that can really help you build, and a person that you can delegate a lot more to. And then that's going to help you also to scale. You have to learn to trust and if people can do it 70 to 80% as good as you, I think at one point you have to let it go and work with that. On the admin side, hiring an admin assistant, even if it's part-time, it's one of the easiest positions to hire for. And at a certain point, it's a game changer. And I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that said, hey, I just trained someone to answer my calls. I remember as a business owner, I looked at my phone bill and was receiving on average 72 calls a day. That's a call every 6 minutes during work hours, right? So when you have someone who's able to take calls, it gets to be so relieving. So and someone that can help with just the office tasks. Sometimes it can just start part-time. Or having a virtual assistant, again, online. There's excellent places with those types of services. Using a business manager software, I personally love Synced Up. If I had more time, I would tell everyone about it, just because it's like the software that looked at what the other softwares weren't doing as well, and they really focused on a way that's easy to understand, very efficient at looking at your numbers and job costing, so that on every job if you're making money. So for a few $100s a month, I would say that software will pay for itself so much faster than a lot of things we spend our money on as business owners. Blocking time, you have to block time in your schedule, I think, in this stage. And in marketing, there's simple things you can do, like I call it boots on the ground. So you talk to the neighbors when you get into a new neighborhood, you have your flyers, you do the 5 houses the 5 neighbors around, or you introduce yourself and say you're going to be working next door. If they have any questions, comments, or concerns, they can reach out to you, give a business card. Sometimes it's just those little touch points that make a huge difference in marketing. You don't have to spend lots of money. You have to be creative at this point in the game, right? Now in stage 2, I would say that your main focus now is going to be let the tools do the work for you. So if you train your people and you do better pre-screening, let's say you're in sales, and instead of going to every call that you're getting, you start asking better questions so that you know if the person on the other end of a line is actually your ideal client. So usually you have to go a little bit through stage 1 to know who's your ideal client. And then you're able to ask better questions in stage 2 to be able to identify who those clients are. Then in production, again, now you've trained people, you have skilled employees, but you need skilled leaders as well. So you have to take the time to train leaders to be able to lead those skilled employees. And you have to do a lot more networking. People don't network enough, and they say, I can't find anyone. If the companies who have the least employee issues or problems finding employees are business owners who spend a lot of time networking. They go to events, they talk to people. You say, well, yeah, but I can't go get other employees from other companies. No, but if they're not happy there and they know you're a great person and you're sociable and they would love to learn to work for someone like you, chances are you're going to get more call from people who want to do landscaping just for better employers. Usually people quit not because of the job, they quit because of their employer, right? So to be a better employer, you got to network, you got to expand your network. On the admin side, it's really about delegating and leveraging administrative help, administrative assistance, and really leveraging your business management software to know where you stand in your business, to track your numbers, to know, your revenue per hour, your revenue per crew, your revenue per day, per week, per month, so that you know if you're on track with your objective, all based on your budget, what you need to meet to be profitable. And then in marketing, well, you're growing to stage 2, you're gonna need a lot more partnerships. So having a lot of subcontractors or people that you can call that can help you when times are slower or you have difficulty finding a labor. You need partnerships. You need people who can help you with your work. And there's ways to do it profitably if you track your numbers. You have to be present more and more and more on social media. You have more money now, so you need to invest into your website. Maybe leverage your website to work for you, to pre-screen your people who will show up on your website. And that's very important to be able to move to stage 3. In stage 3, well, you got to automate your administrative systems and have clear leadership roles. So it's really about gaining clarity on the leadership level. You got to decide, okay, if you're going to be doing the sales, how can you automate the process so that once the sales are done, you can go to your leadership team and they can take care of all the work for you without you repeating or having to be there with them all the time. So there's training involved, there's leadership training involved. You have to set sometimes a new structure to your business. So put people in the right positions to be able to have them lead instead of you being involved in every step. And then on the admin side, again, it's just going to be delegating more and more and more, and having someone who can help you also with hiring. So HR systems, someone who can help you maybe start the process before the interview, pre-screening also. You're going to need a lot more people usually at this stage. So you need to leverage other people to help you start the process. You can finish the process by interviewing the person if you want, but there's so many stages, so many steps before that. And then the marketing phase at this point is really, you're as much focused as attracting employees and attracting clients. Okay, so you want more work, yes, but you want also more employees, but the kind of employees that are going to have the right attitude to work for your business and who share the same values. So you're going to spend a lot of time and money. I know some companies that have their budget is for marketing to find right clients. So having targeted marketing for their employees, but also for their clients. finding better clients, but also for finding employees. So a lot of money spent on social media to show videos of their company culture, how people like working there, what kind of work they do. They acknowledge their employees for the great work done. And so that has a great effect, because oftentimes it not only attracts better employees, but it also attracts clients who value that. So that at stage 3, you're really trying to build a strong leadership team, and you're tracking your numbers. Because you're not in the field, you need to know what's working and not working on the field and off the field. So it's important to track specific numbers, like your revenue, like your capacity. Each crew has a certain capacity. How much revenue profit are you getting from each? And when people ask for a raise, it's so much easier to say yes when you're able to see the results, and you're able to say like, yes, you know what, your crew is not only meeting the goal, but exceeding the goals consistently. Absolutely, you guys need a raise, right? But it's hard to give out a raise when you're not tracking that. And you have no idea how much money you're making per crew or per team or even per person. So it's really important to start tracking more and more and more as you grow from one stage to the other. In stage 4, your main focus is going to be on delegation and training your leadership team. So maybe here now you're training multiple people in sales. Maybe you have an InDesign team in-house. You have special training for new leaders. You have clear KPIs, so clear numbers that you're getting from your leadership team, and you're teaching them about how to keep track of it and what's a red flag. When you see this number, what do you do? You're teaching them how to manage a good and less good, I guess, situation. You're going to leverage your subcontractors a lot more. You're going to grow a production team when the sales growth is manageable. On the admin level, again, you might have multiple admins at this point. You're growing your admin team proportionally to the revenue and growth of your business. So you have to start thinking, when one person is too stretched out in the office, you might need a second person for bookkeeping in-house. You might be hiring in-house for other services that are related to supporting administratively. And at this point, usually your marketing, you have a good budget. You can really set a certain percentage, whether it's between 1 to 3 to 5%. I see some companies being very aggressive at the 3 to 5%, but when times are good, you can spend 1% and be okay, or less sometimes. But I see also the mistake of people not investing enough, or thinking, I get all my business from word of mouth. I hear that all the time. I'm so busy. But you know what happens when the economy crashes and nobody calls? If your brand is not known to even the people that you don't know, it's not just the people who know you that knows you, but it's the people who you don't even know about. If they don't know about your brand, if you're not top of mind, when times are tougher, I've lived it, where the phone goes from ringing every day to it stops ringing. Poof. And so if you're not out there, if your brand is not out there, it's not known, that's what's going to happen. So it's risk managing, future-proofing your business. Stage 4 is making sure you have all these things in place to protect your business. And you're going to be also looking at, okay, what are the push and pull factors in stage 4? As in, like, you're going to have some leaders that don't agree with you. So how do you deal with that? You're going to start thinking about, hey, how do I take myself out of the equation? How do I prepare for an exit plan, or exit options, or maybe a transition? How do I change my role as an owner? You have to look at the business dependency also, like how is the business dependent on you, or your leaders dependent on you? You have to try to create that supportive environment where they can operate without you. And having a plan for each employee is important, because it's not just a business anymore. You have people who see that as their careers, and you don't have to just start this at stage 4. You can start this at stage 1 and really talk to them about the future plan and what you want to implement and what's important for them, to check with your employees. What's important for you? What do you want out of a career, and where do you want to go? And because people change. And then in stage 5, it's really about looking at your business with I call it the 8 key drivers that drive your business when you're not necessarily in it. You want to make sure that your business can operate without you. You want to make sure that it's financially stable. You want to make sure that you know your market, because that can be a surprise if you're not part of your business as much and the market changes or has a switch and don't have that knowledge. It could be painful. So there's 8 key drivers that I usually go through, but those are the same key drivers that affect the value of your business. If you want to sell your business later on, you're going to have to make sure that you do certain things or focus on certain things that are going to drive up the value. Having reoccurring revenue, a maintenance side to your business can help drive the value up. And some people don't necessarily think of this. So you can work your whole life and have a business that you can't sell at the end, or you can start thinking about these things and start addressing them and build a business based on this. And eventually your business could be worth 3, 4, 5 times of what it would have been worth if you don't touch on this. So this is what I focus on with my clients that are in stage 4 to stage 5. I help them plan for transitions and to risk manage and to track information that's important because they're not there as much. And there's so many tools and resources out there. I'd be happy to help anyone who might think they're in one stage or the other. If they're looking for different resources, they just have to reach out to me. I'll be happy to share some tools where they can identify which stage they're in and to see what they need for the next stage.
Thank you, Frank. And it does look like we have a question here from Franklin. He said, where do we begin with KPIs? I'm not sure what to track.
Okay, so I'll go back to, let's say, stage 1. All right, so in stage 1, I would track, you want to know how much money you have to make per day. Okay, I'll give you an example. Hardscape companies, construction. Okay, that's not maintenance or because they're all going to be different. But in hardscape, usually hardscape have a truck, a trailer, an excavator or skid steer. They need a certain minimum per day to run their business, but also to be profitable. And so in hardscapes, what I've noticed is the very minimum per day that you can be sustainable, especially if you're running just like us. We have winter here in Canada, so you're only really running anywhere from 7 to 9 months if you're lucky. So you need to produce around 3,000 to 3,300 per day. That's the very minimum. I know teams that produce 6,000, 7,000 per day per crew, but you need to know your minimum. And every company is different based on how much overhead you have, how much, so this is where the budget comes into hand. It's going to help you know how much you need per day. And then you might realize that you can't do that with 2 people. You can only do that number if you have 3 people, right? Or a piece of equipment that's going to be really helpful. Sometimes it's a good move to buy the piece of equipment, but this is where running the numbers is really, really good. And you have to focus on, I think in stage 1 is your KPIs would be knowing daily how much you got to make, weekly how much you got to make, and then monthly you got to check on that revenue. If that revenue is not there, you got to change your plan quickly. And I've seen myself run for years and come at the end of the year and say, well, I think money's in the bank, I think we're good, right? My account saying, no, we didn't make any money, actually we were in the red. And so it's deceiving sometimes. It's not because you have money in the bank that you're profitable. And I think that's one of the first lessons that you learn as an entrepreneur when you talk to your accountant, is that if you don't understand how it works, there's so many more to just having money in the bank. Cash flow is not necessarily profit. And then you have to know your revenue per man hour, I think, because if you charge too little, for instance, in hardscapes, $100, so if you divide, let's say you have a crew of 3, you work 10 hours, just easy numbers, just for the purpose of this is like exercise, but you have 3 people in a crew, and you make $3,000 in a day, you work 10 hours, let's say, so it's $100 per man hour. So each person brings in, that's total revenue per day divided by how many hours, divided by the number of people. Let's say in this case, it's 100. Well, for hardscape, 100 is pretty much the very minimum of what you can charge per man hour to see some kind of a profit. It doesn't mean it's a good profit, but it could. If you don't have a big overhead, it could still be decent. But the companies that are really profitable in this industry will be between 100 to 150 or more per man hour. And so I see companies price out hardscape jobs, like they price out their maintenance job. Maintenance job might only be $75 per man hour, right? Because it's a different type of service. The materials are, you're not as high on materials, so it changes. But so you can't price everything the same way. So I think getting educated a little bit on the revenue per man hour that you need, the revenue per day, then it helps you just to see if you're on track. That would be stage one. And stage two, you're going to do the same thing, but you have to know your capacity. So how much money can your crew actually produce? Because sometimes we have a goal, but the crew can't produce it. So then you need to work on the skill level of your crew to be able to make them more efficient, or invest in a piece of equipment that's right for most of your job. If you buy a piece of equipment you can only use, every 2 months, it's not going to pay for itself. So you need something that you can use often, that's going to leverage your time and the time of your employees. And then you also want to track your net profit on jobs regularly. So this is where software comes in hand. You can track every job and say, hey, did we make money on this? So I encourage people to look at Synced Up to get a demo, just to be able to visualize what I'm talking about. They do a great job at syncedup.com to show you how you can track this easily. Then in stage 3, you want to track all those that I've just mentioned. And then you want to maybe start tracking your cost per lead. So how much does it cost to get a lead? So you're going to be investing more in marketing. You want to know your cost per lead. You want to know how much does it cost you to, after you get that lead, to actually get the client. So your customer acquisition cost also. So the CPL and the CAC is just the cost per lead and the customer acquisition cost. And then your average ticket, what's your ideal job? Is it, some people say, well, my average job, my ideal job is $10,000, but my average job is $2,000. So there's almost as much effort that goes into a $2,000 job than a $10,000 job. It's one client, but there's so much involved in just getting the job and processing the information and getting the equipment there. And so you have to kind of get a feel for what's the best size of job, or your average ticket for your jobs, or what are you attracting? Are you attracting the right jobs? Then you can do something about it in your marketing. That's stage 3. And sorry, stage 4, you're doing all this, but you're also very focused on like P&L targets, right? Profit loss targets. This is where talking to folks like yourselves that could give a bit of coaching on, where do we stand on the balance sheet, the ratios and the targets, and then the P&L, like, hey, let's review it on a monthly basis and let's make changes if there's any red flags there. And then in stage 5, it's really about making sure that cash flow is good, risk managing everything financially, and having risk metrics. So when you reach a certain level, saying, hey, no, we have to do something about this, and investing more time in those kind of metrics because you're not there as much. So quickly, those are the kind of numbers that you would want to have at each stage of business.
Awesome. No, great. And it's really interesting how each phase has its different things to kind of look at. And if you kind of jump ahead, you saw for yourself, Frank, how that looks when you at first got into the industry with your first business there. It's great to be able to pass that on to other owners so that they don't have to go through that.
Yeah, going through the same pain, right?
Yeah. So,
and sometimes that's all it is. I think it's the more support you have, like these Facebook groups, and having mentors or whatnot. And a lot of people in this industry are really willing to give the information if you ask the questions. And I think this is something that anyone on this call can leverage more, is expanding your network. And there's many ways to do it: attending more shows, attending more events, like we met at the Synced Up Summit. There's a lot of summits and a lot of events out there in the industry, but just as simple as Facebook groups online. And I think I really invite people to ask questions. There's no dumb questions, right? And I think the more we grow, or sometimes the older we get, the more we think we should know it, so we don't ask. But I think that's just, that's too bad, and we shouldn't feel that way at all.
No, and Frank, if someone wants to reach out to you to, learn more about, your, consulting and different things like that, how could they reach out to you?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So my website is frankbourque.com. So Frank and Bourque is spelled BOURQUE.com, and or my email, quick question, or you're looking for more resources to know which stage of business you're in and what you can do. And I'll be more than happy to send anything to anyone if they send me an email to frank@frankbourque.com. So I don't know if you want to put that in the chat or just in the comments on the Facebook group, but I'll be happy to answer any questions people have. To just put in the subject line Cycle CPA seminar and ask away your question, and I'll be able to find those emails easily when I search them in my inbox.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed this.
No, thanks to you guys. And hopefully we'll see you again soon. Lots of events coming up. And I know we have an event in January, beginning of January. We can send out more information later on in December, but looking forward to having you guys also there, because I think a lot of people need to hear more information about how to track numbers. It was a big part of my presentation, as in like what you need to know, but what you need to know is your numbers first, and then you can do everything else beyond that. So thanks again for having me, guys.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Frank. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.